All right, what's up, basketball fans? Ryan Jarrell here with Adam Martin, and we're a couple of Bangor, Maine boys, and we love the Boston Celtics. So we're here today to talk about this past season. It was an unfortunate season the way it played out for us Celtics fans. And we're also going to preview next year, and what that holds with this new coach, Ime Udoka, which has yet to be announced, but it looks like that is going to be the case. But before we dive into all that, Adam, we do want to talk, the current NBA basketball that is going on. The playoffs are underway. We're down to the Final Four. We have game 3 of the Suns and the Clippers tonight. It looks like Chris Paul is going to play. Do the Clippers have a chance? Can they win these next two, get back in the series, or does the Clippers team without Kawhi Leonard fall away into obscurity until next year?
I mean, it's a good question. I would love to say that the Clippers are done, but they've come back from down 0-2 in their last two series. So you really can't count them out, I don't think. And I think it's too early. But we'll see what happens tonight. I think if the Suns can win tonight, then the Clippers are done. But Chris Paul's supposed to be back, but we'll see. And honestly, man, I'm watching this Clippers team without Kawhi. They they don't seem like a very good team. I'm shocked that they've made it this far. Honestly, like they've got Paul George playing really well. I know that everyone's going to call him a choker for missing those 2 free throws in the last game. But if you look at his stats for these playoffs, it's probably the best playoff run he's had in his career. But like, who's their number 2 option? Reggie Jackson? I mean,
Yeah.
it's wild that this team is in the Western Conference Finals
I was shocked.
without Kawhi.
Yeah, I was shocked that they beat Utah. I mean, I actually went to bed, didn't even give it a second thought. Those last couple games, I'm like, the Jazz got this. No Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers don't have a chance. Well, boy, was I wrong. I woke up the next day and I was floored that they actually got past the number 1 seed and are now here in the Western Conference Finals. I will say this. I truly do not believe that the Clippers will get past the Suns. I don't even think they're going to win 2 games against the Suns without Kawhi Leonard. Now, if they had Leonard, that's a different story altogether, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back at least for the next game or 2 at the very minimum. So that's a tall task to ask for a team with Paul George as your number 1 star, and really your number 2 option is Reggie Jackson. So I feel like Phoenix, if they do win tonight, I think it's going to be maybe a gentleman's sweep, and they'll be waiting for whoever comes out of the East, which that Bucks-Hawks series is very interesting start to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Phoenix winning it all now. They've been the team that I've been consistently the most impressed with in the playoffs. They're fun to watch. And they just feel like they make sense, which we've seen a lot of teams not make sense in these playoffs. I just feel like all their pieces fit, and they all know their role. Pretty much nothing we can say about the Celtics, by the way, but we'll get to that. They're just really, really fun to watch. Even without Chris Paul, they look good, which really surprised me. I love DeAndre Ayton. He's been so much fun to watch, and obviously Devin Booker is a real shot maker. But yeah, I had Utah originally was my pick to win it all, so I was shocked as well that they lost. But man, there's something weird going on in the NBA. I don't think the defense matters anymore. It seems like defense is dead. I mean, you've had Gobert win the Defensive Player of the Year, what, three years now, and every year he gets to the playoffs and just gets exposed. I mean, he's a liability. How can you have your Defensive Player of the Year be a liability in the playoffs? I mean, it's shocking.
Mm. It's crazy too, because not to switch gears here, but just an analogy. Look at the NFL. The NFL used to be all about defense, and that was like the calling card for all the championship teams. And now it's offense, offense, offense. Look at the Bucks and the Chiefs. They're really going out there putting up a lot of points. It's like that's what the fans want, and that's what you're seeing in the NBA now. One thing I do have to get your opinion on, which literally blew my mind. It drives me crazy. It feels like sports journalism now is all about sensationalism and just grabbing headlines. And I'm not going to put anybody through my Stephen A. Smith impersonation. I do a pretty good one. I bet.
Heard it. It's good.
I'm not going to go that route. But he said that Devin Booker is the next Kobe Bryant. I mean, I just can't wrap my head around that. Like, this is supposed to be like the sports journalism voice for the NBA. And to say that Devin Booker is the next Kobe Bryant to me is just insane. All respect to Devin Booker. He's amazing. He's going to be, a superstar, but Kobe being Bryant, that's pushing it a little too far. What do you think of that comment?
Well, I'd like to answer it by crapping on both players, which is going to win me a lot of fans. First of all, it's a ridiculous thing. Let's crap on Stephen A too. It's a ridiculous thing to say. I think he probably knows it's ridiculous. He's probably just doing his job. Uh, Secondly, it is blasphemous to Kobe. I mean, not only was Kobe a better offensive player just because of his history and his selfishness that I don't think Devin Booker has, but Kobe Bryant was a two-way player. Let's not forget that Kobe Bryant could lock down the other team's best player when he wanted to. Devin Booker has none of that. He has no defensive intensity at all. Now, I know we just talked about how defense doesn't really seem to matter anymore, but you can't just be comparing guys to Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant if they don't play defense. It's crazy. Secondly, and this is where I crap on Kobe, man, there's this weird thing that happens when people pass where we just idolize them and we forget that they were imperfect human beings. Kobe Bryant was a bad teammate for a long time before he, in his later career, kind of righted the ship and still wasn't a great teammate, but found a way to not just infuriate everyone. Devin Booker doesn't have any of that. Everybody loves Devin Booker. So I think Devin Booker's a better teammate, better part of a team than Kobe ever was. And Kobe was just a much better player. Devin, let's not get it twisted. Devin Booker is a great shot maker. He's a really nice offensive player, and he's still young. He's still got his whole career ahead of him, but he's not Kobe Bryant. They're just different.
One thing I will say, and I pride myself on being objective, and I'm taking my Celtics fandom right out of the equation. Kobe Bryant is lucky to have 5 championships because that 5th one that he got in 2010 was insane to me. The Celtics, they should have won. I know the injuries. I mean, that game 7, I think it was 39-17 free throw attempts for the Lakers on their home court versus Boston. It still makes my skin crawl to think about it, but I will digress. I do want to say a couple things before we transition to the Hawks and the Bucks. Number one, what would a championship mean for Chris Paul's legacy? Because this is a guy who has been one of the premier point guards in the league for a very long time. And number two, what is this going to mean for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers next season if they do lose? Even if Kawhi comes back, and plays towards the end and they still lose, like what's going to happen in LA come the 2021-2022 season?
Well, let's start with Chris Paul. I would love to see Chris Paul get a ring because unfortunately for him right now, the story of his career, he's got kind of like that John Stockton, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley stink on him, that he's like this incredible player that just can't get it done in the playoffs. So nothing would make me happier at this point than him actually getting a ring and putting to rest that, because I think if he does get a ring, you're going to be looking at this guy as he's going to be up there, man. Top 25 player ever. I mean, he's going to climb that list if he gets a ring. He's definitely, I think, a top 5 point guard that the league has ever seen. And that might even be without the ring. What he's doing at his age is just awesome to see. And as much as he kind of annoys me, just like he annoys his teammates and many of the stops that he's had, he's been one of my favorite players to watch since Wake Forest.
Yeah,
so,
Wake Forest.
I'd love to see it. I love this sort of late stage rejuvenation. That's great. And as far as the Clippers, I don't know if it's going to be that big of a deal. I mean, the Clippers have always stunk. So like, I think them winning is the big deal because now they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. I think them blowing it and losing it is it's the same old Clippers.
Par for the course, right? Yeah. Well, I would be shocked if the Clippers win the series, even with Kawhi Leonard coming back. I just don't think they have enough to get past this Suns team, who is just super dynamic and a lot of fun to watch. All right, so game 3 is tonight. What is your pick? Do you feel like Phoenix gets up 3-zip, or the Clippers going to steal this one?
Well, I mean, if Chris Paul is back, which we've heard reports that he's probable for this game, then yeah, I think Phoenix gets it done. But again, I wouldn't bet money on it because these Clippers are making a habit of coming back from down 0-2, and these playoffs have been crazy. I mean, who would have predicted the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals? So I would say Phoenix, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Clippers pull one out.
Yeah. Okay. If Paul's playing and Leonard's not, I'm going with Phoenix, and I'm sticking to that 100%. All right. Let's transition to the Eastern Conference. Atlanta stole game one, stole the home court advantage behind Trae Young's almost triple double, 48 points. I mean, good Lord, this guy's being called the new Steph Curry. And I got to admit, I was late to the party. I wasn't sold on just how good this guy could be, mostly just because of his size. But my God, the NBA is changing, and this kid can stick it from literally 2 feet inside half court. He can pull up and drain it with ease. So I still feel like this is the Bucks series to lose. But if Trae Young keeps coming out and putting up these performances like this, it's going to be interesting. What is your overall thought on this series?
I've been blown away by Trae Young. He is so much fun to watch, and I am also shocked as well. He's the best player on the court with Giannis out there. Which how can you say that? And in the last series, he was the best player on the court with Embiid out there. And in the first series, he was the best player on the court, and that wasn't really a huge shocker. But what he's done in this playoffs to go into Madison Square Garden and shut down that arena, and then to go and beat Philly, and now to steal game one from the Bucks. I think he's been the second best player in the playoffs besides Kevin Durant. And that's wild. I mean, I watched him play at Oklahoma, and he averaged 30 and 10, and he was a lot of fun to watch, but I never would have guessed that he was going to be averaging 30 and 10 in the playoffs just a few years later. I mean, that's a shocking transition, especially like you said, because he's tiny. And again, this goes back to what we were kind of talking about, the league changing. In the past, you just wouldn't, I don't think you would see a guard this small be able to get whatever he wants. But with some of the rule changes and just the way the game is being played now, it's wild to watch how much gravity Trae Young has in a basketball game, how he just affects everything. And God, I love watching him. And it's interesting because he doesn't actually shoot the ball that well. He's only shooting threes that are like 34%, which is like below NBA average. But it seems like whenever they need one, he makes it. I mean, he has no fear of the spotlight, and I've really enjoyed that. And as far as the Bucks, man, they've sucked their way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, it's like seriously, like every time we talk about the Bucks in these playoffs, it's that their coach is an idiot, that nobody has any idea what they're doing, that all of their role players are disappointing. Even Giannis, whose stat line for these playoffs has been incredible, and he really has done it all. He can't make a free throw, and it's like we keep seeing this, that in playoffs, in big games, you can't have your best player not be able to shoot free throws. It's just a massive liability, and it keeps coming back to hurt this Bucks team. And I don't know. I mean, the Bucks are definitely more talented. There's no question about that, especially with Atlanta missing DeAndre Hunter, and Bogdanovich is on one leg. But the Bucks also suck. Like they're just not. Their offense sucks. They're not playing well. Their drop defense that they're doing is just, no one knows why they're doing it. And so I don't know, man. I said before this series, I would not be shocked if the Atlanta Hawks make the NBA Finals. And so when they won game one, I wasn't that surprised, because the Bucks are just a mess.
Yeah, you could have won some serious money if you were in Vegas and you were a gambling man, because the Hawks were a pretty significant underdog there in that first game. I don't know. There's something about Giannis to me that I'm regressing on how good I think he can be. At one point, I thought, this guy's going to be the best player in the world, but I feel like he's missing that Michael Jordan like killer gene. Either you have it or you don't. And I'm not so sure that Giannis has it. And until he can be able to make an outside shot at a decent clip and actually have the defenders come out on him to respect his shot, I just feel like his game is going to be a little limited. And that's crazy to say, because he can do almost everything. He's 7 feet tall and he plays like a guard. So it's a little crazy to say, but I don't know. I'm not all the way sold on him just yet. And you probably won't like this, because I know you don't like the Brooklyn Nets, and I don't either. I'm just being objective and honest here. But if they were healthy, I think they would have won the whole thing this year. I just don't feel like between Durant, Harden, and Kyrie, as much as I hate Kyrie, I don't think that anybody had the firepower to beat those guys. So I think Milwaukee, if they ever want to win a championship here in the next couple of years, like it's now or never. They need to find a way to get their stuff together and play the best basketball possible, because I don't see him winning next year. And then who knows what's going to happen with Giannis's contract. So it's now or never for them. And I think there's a lot of ifs. And if they do get by Atlanta, they're going to have another team that can put up some serious points and push the pace with Phoenix and a healthy Chris Paul. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
I'm going to steal from Bill Simmons here. I think most people look at Giannis the wrong way. He compares him to Shaq, and I think that's like the best way to look at Giannis, that he's really a center that just kind of tries to play point forward and small forward, and he has some of those skills. But if you think about Shaq's career and how he was able to win over and over and over again, because he couldn't shoot free throws either, he always needed to be paired with that elite guard so that Shaq could kind of carry you all the way there, but then either Kobe or Dwayne Wade had to bring you across the finish line. And I think that's what Giannis needs, unfortunately. I don't think he needs a big three, which seems to be the prerequisite for winning an NBA championship these days. But I think if he had the right two, that like imagine Trae Young and Giannis on the same team. I mean, to me, that's, just like when they were talking about trading James Harden to Philly, Harden and Embiid. I still think like the right pairing of two guys can get it done. And I think that's what Giannis needs. Unfortunately, they don't have that. They've got Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and both of those guys can be great, but neither one of them are really good enough. And so what ends up happening is you end up seeing Giannis in late game situations trying to do his thing, but it's really not his game. So I think he is a killer. I love Giannis. I love everything about Giannis. I'm so happy he stayed in Milwaukee. There's a big part of me that wants the Bucks to win a championship so that kids watching the NBA nowadays will see that small market teams can still get it done, that loyalty does have dividends, and that, don't just be the Nets. That's like the most dark star, like Death Star evil. Don't do that ever. But we'll see. I mean, at this point, as long as the Clippers lose, I'm happy with anybody winning a championship this year. But I think I would like to see Bucks or Phoenix first, and then the Hawks.
Okay. My pick for we're going to transition to the Celtics here, because I know most people that will be watching this know us from New England, and, our Celtics fans. So we'll dive right there. But first, your pick for the finals. I'm going with Phoenix and Milwaukee, and I think Phoenix is going to get it done.
Actually, I think I would say the same thing, but I'm really close to saying Atlanta. It's just something about Trae Young and the way he's playing, and just the discomfort I get from watching Milwaukee just stumble through these playoffs. And you're right. If the Nets would have even had two players healthy, let's not even say all three. If they would have even had two, they probably would have swept the Bucks. And that's how lopsided that series was until it was Kevin Durant against the world. So yeah, I don't know. I'll go with the Bucks, but I'm not super optimistic about it. I think Phoenix definitely gets there, and I also think Phoenix wins because they're you watch these games, Phoenix is playing the best basketball. I don't really think that's debatable.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. All right, the Boston Celtics. The last season was it seems like it was just a couple days ago, and then boom, here we are. This whole season is over and done with. The Celtics were in the Eastern Conference Finals, again on the cusp of making an NBA Finals, and they couldn't get it done. You had the Miami Heat beating us, making it to the finals and losing to the Lakers. And now here we are, fast forward to the end of this past year, and what a weird year. I mean, I really don't even know where to start, because talk about not playing even close to your potential. And there's been a lot of rumblings about, what's going on with Brad Stevens, and is there dissension within the locker room? And come to find out, that's exactly what was going on. The players he wasn't resonating with them. Gordon Hayward even tried to give him some advice on his way out the door. and it just didn't make any difference. And he steps down, or I guess moves into his new role, replacing Danny Ainge, which I didn't see coming. And now the rumors are Ime Udoka is going to be the new coach of the Boston Celtics, who all the players endorsed because they played for him on the Olympic team. Tatum, Brown, Smart, they like the guy. And so this is apparently the new hire for us. What is your whole thought process on all of this? Because I know you're a super fan just like myself. Do you feel like this is the right move? And were you surprised as to Brad Stevens' transition into the front office?
Well, I mean, I was a little bit surprised that Danny Ainge stepped down, but not shocked. I was definitely shocked that Brad Stevens took over. I guess they thought that, changing both the GM and the coach role in 1 year was too much change. And I guess I can see that, but I would have been happy if Brad would have just been gone as well. I mean, I was saying that all last year that Brad had lost the locker room. And before any of these reports came out, you could just tell. I mean, just watch the games and you can just see, like, Brad's a defensive coach. No one's playing defense. Like, the discussion is done. And I don't know, like, if Brad doesn't have a great relationship with these players anymore, then why are you promoting him to be the general manager of this team? I don't see the logic there. I'm one of the people that think that it's just a BS money decision, that Wick just didn't want to pay off like $30 million or however much he owed to Stevens. And that's why he got the nod. Now, does that mean that they don't believe in him at all? I don't think that's true. I think they do think that he can do this job. I don't think they would give it to him otherwise. But I also think that they were like, we'll save $30 million if we just bump this guy up. But I would have loved to have seen them go after Ujiri or Presti, like a real GM with real chops. But, I don't know. And as far as Ime Udoka, yeah, sure. I mean, okay. Are you excited, Ryan? Like, did the hire get you excited? I know you don't hate it because nobody hates it. Nobody hates it. He's an ex-player. He's black. The players like him. I mean, these were the three criteria that we had that we felt like we needed to check off. But are you pumped up for Udoka?
I don't know him. I understand his credentials. I know he won a championship under Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs. And, something that's very important is that Brown, Tatum, and Smart like him and they signed off on him. But I don't know him enough. I mean, honestly, I don't know who would have made the most sense. I was kind of leaning towards, I heard a lot of people saying Sam Cassell might be a good fit. I know Sam Cassell. I know him a hell of a lot better than I know Udoka, and I mean, in his heyday, he was one heck of a player. So I don't know. I don't know who else would have been the right fit. I'll tell you who I wish never left to begin with was Doc Rivers, but it is what it is. And, here he is in Philadelphia now. I'm not sure. I mean, I think the jury is still out to figure out if this was a good move, but I wish they would have maybe taken a little bit more time. I mean, what's the rush? There's a lot of other options out there, and there were still plenty of, young former players who happen to be black that would have been good fits in Boston. So, I'm not 100% certain, but we'll see how this first season goes.
I think it's, there's 6 other teams right now, I think, looking for coaches. So I imagine that they probably felt like they kind of had a head start on a lot of these other teams, and they probably just wanted to get it done. I wanted Chauncey Billups personally. I just felt like he had the right amount of cachet where if he told players what to do, they might actually listen. Hey, this is Chauncey Billups. This is a guy who knows what he's talking about. I don't know about it. I don't know about his coaching chops. I think he was only an assistant for 1 year or something like that. So not that experienced, but you take a chance. I mean, we're taking a chance on Udoka as well, but apparently everybody who knows Popovich is just amazing. That's what's happening in today. Like half the coaches in the NBA have somehow like bought groceries for Greg Popovich or something, like used to date his niece. Like it's just ridiculous, the Greg Popovich tree. But I don't hate the hire. Don't get me wrong. Like he seems like a young, intelligent guy, and he ticks a lot of those boxes. But again, when we hired Brad Stevens, like people around the NBA were shocked, and everybody was excited. And we don't have that right now. We're like, okay, yeah, he seems nice. Let's see. Nobody really knows. So, time will tell. But and they're saying, oh, he's a defensive minded coach. Well, great. We just talked about how defense doesn't matter in the NBA anymore. Can't we get somebody that will take the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands so we can actually run? I can just hear Tommy in his grave, run, just like, because this team is so slow. They don't pass, they don't run, and yeah, they don't play defense too. So maybe we'll get one of those things next year.
I will say this. I love the Chauncey Billups idea. I think that would have been a phenomenal fit. And an analogy to use with the Popovich tree. I mean, just look over in the NFL again with Bill Belichick. I mean, everyone that fell out of the Bill Belichick coaching tree was supposed to be a phenomenal coach, and that wasn't the case. There's a lot of coaches that fell flat on their face and then end up going back to New England and then doing well again when they're under Bill Belichick's system. So, that doesn't really matter. Udoka's going to have to show and prove here in this upcoming season. So again, the jury's still out. The fit seems like maybe it's a good one. So we'll see what happens. But I do want to get your thoughts too, just on the first move by Brad Stevens in his new role, trading away Kemba Walker, a small guard with banged up knees and a big contract, getting back Al Horford, a big, and Moses Brown, another big that's super young and that can challenge Robert Williams maybe for some playing time. I like the move. What do you think?
I didn't love it. I seem to be the only one. This is great. We're gonna have a great dynamic here of you just being positive and me being relentlessly pessimistic. But I don't know. I had this dream scenario in my head where, like, Kemba Walker's contract is awful, undoubtedly, but his second year. So next year he's locked in for like 30, 35 million or something like that. But the year after that, he has a player option for 37 million. And I don't know why everyone is just like assuming that he's taking that. And I think we should have learned our lesson with Gordon Hayward, because everybody thought Gordon Hayward was going to take his player option as well. And guess what? He didn't. Now he had an opportunity to go and make more money elsewhere. And I don't think that Kemba Walker is going to have that opportunity if he would have stayed. But you can go all the way back, and there's a really important quote from Kemba where he talked about why he came to the Boston Celtics. And he said, I just want to feel wanted. And guess where he doesn't feel wanted? In Boston. He does not feel wanted in Boston anymore. So my whole idea was, let's make him not feel wanted. Let's continue that great feeling of distrust and disharmony next year. Put his ass on the bench, sit his ass on the bench and say, you're Lou Williams now. You're gonna come off the bench. You're gonna play 18 to 22 minutes per game when you can. You're gonna shoot every time you touch the ball. You're gonna shoot it. It's just gonna be like Charlotte Light off the bench. You can go back to playing the way you're supposed to play, not trying to defer to two other guys, which is not who you are. It never has been. It was a bad fit from the start, but I just thought we could put him in the bench, maybe get something out of him as a sixth man kind of player. And then, but he would also be unhappy in that role. Great. That means that the year after he could turn down his player option and we would have $37 million free. Just like that. We wouldn't have to trade away a first round pick to get rid of him. That was my dream scenario, but apparently I'm the only one. Now, this is the consolation prize. We got Horford back. Everybody loves Horford. I don't know how much he has left. He's going to be 35 next year. If you can remember 2 years ago, you remember the last season of Al. It's like everyone's like, yes, Al Horford's coming back. 2018 championship. Like, this is not that Al Horford, right? Like, you remember the last year he was here. He was like on the sideline stretching his hamstrings, like while he was catching a breather. I mean, he was kind of breaking down.
I'll be the first one to come right out and say, for someone that's not 21 years old anymore, playing full court basketball at an advanced stage is virtually impossible. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like for 82 games a year when you're that size. So great points. And I do love what you said about all that cap space, because Kemba Walker would have been the ideal sixth man. But, sometimes like getting the bad laundry out, and pressing the restart button and refreshing things is good. I mean, if he was grumpy and miserable in that role and it was bringing, conflict to the team, that could be a real problem. So this might be just a good way to hit that restart button, start again, and maybe things will be better. But you do make a lot of great points. I didn't even think about it from that angle. The other thing that comes into the equation too is with that 37 million, if that's what ended up happening, who's going to come to Boston? It seems like for whatever reason, all
Not a
these
great
big
place to be anymore.
superstars, yeah, they don't want to come, and it's just like I don't understand it. I mean, us and the Lakers have the most championships ever, 17. No one even comes close to that championship rich tradition, but I guess it's cold during the season. The guys want to be in LA or Miami, but I just feel like it would be a great destination, especially when you have two centerpieces like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I think that's what it's gonna be up to. It's gonna be up to Jalen and Jason turning into the kind of players that you want to play with. And they're not right now. They're great young players, but I don't think anybody around the league is looking at those two guys right now and being like, oh yeah, I'd love to play with these two guys who can't pass the ball, just ISO everything. So they're going to have to develop into those kind of players that other players want to play with, because what's everything that's great about Boston is its history. And these kids don't care about history. They just don't.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you ask a young guy like Anthony Edwards out of Minnesota, he probably wouldn't even know who Bill Russell is. So, like, I swear, like, they don't care, and that's fine. It's a totally different generation, but I just think that like we always look at Boston having this tradition that people would love to be a Celtic, and I don't think that really matters anymore. I think, what matters is Danny Ainge trading Isaiah Thomas after his hip fell off. I think that's what players see. Players see the way that Danny Ainge treated players, fair or not, and it gives Boston a bit of a bad reputation. And I think the cold weather thing is bigger than people think. Boston, the weather sucks, 8-9 months out of the year. Players want to be like out chilling with their homies, going to the clubs and stuff. And Boston is just, it's not really that city.
What are you talking about? Everyone loves the snow around here.
Not me, man.
That's
Not
where
me.
it's
I
at.
moved all the way across the world to get away from that stuff.
No, and I moved to California and then came back. Although I am glad I'm back. A lot of great things going in my life right now, but I do miss that sunny weather. Adam, another thing that a lot of rumors going around about super trades and players moving. One thing that really excites me, and I know we talked about it a little bit via text the other day, Luka Doncic right now apparently is unhappy. Although Rick Carlisle, the coach, did leave. Now he's coaching the Indiana Pacers. But for whatever reason, him and Porzingis seem to be butting heads. Maybe because Porzingis isn't the number one.
Stinks.
Yeah, and he's not the number one option, which is I
That's
think
why.
yeah he thought he was going to be. Is there a chance that you feel like we could see Luka Doncic in a Boston Celtics uniform?
No. I mean, I don't even want to entertain that option because it's just too tantalizing. Have you heard rumors about that, or are you just like throwing that out there?
Maybe a little bit of both. I read an article saying that that would be a great fit if he is looking to move and sign a long-term deal, that maybe trading Jaylen Brown and a couple other picks and adding some other assets to get Doncic. I mean, look, I wouldn't be trading Jaylen Brown for just anybody, but if I could get Luka Doncic and match him up with Jason Tatum, that would be phenomenal. The one guy that I do feel like could make sense if Boston could find a way to make it work is Bradley Beal. He's not going to be in Washington anymore, and him and Jason Tatum have a very good relationship. I feel like he would be a perfect sniper, just knocking down triples left and right if they were able to bring him to Boston. I don't know how realistic it is, but sign me up bringing Bradley Beal over from Washington.
So let me try to touch on all of these. Luka, let's just put this in perspective. Of course, we'd want to have Luka. There was literally a time last season when they discussed would the Mavericks take Tatum and Brown for Luka, and people said no. Okay, so this is the level that Luka is at, where basically our two young superstars aren't even enough to get Luka back here. And when they said that, I almost cried because I believed them. I was like, yeah, if I was the Mavs, I wouldn't do that either. Why? Luka's leading a team full of scrubs into the playoffs, and Boston is crumbling with their two stars. So, yeah, of course we would do whatever it takes to get Luka, but I don't see that happening, and I don't see Luka have any intention on coming here to Boston. As far as Bradley Beal, I think if the Celtics would have gone my route and hoped and prayed that Kemba would just walk away from his player option, freeing up that money, I think there might have been a path to signing Bradley Beal outright. Now I don't see it happening unless you want to be like Jeff Goodman and trade Jaylen Brown for Bradley Beal. I don't see it happening. And I don't know, man. Like I feel like what the Celtics really need is a point guard. And unfortunately, I just don't see that guy in the league. I know that last offseason I joked about trading Kemba Walker for Chris Paul because, like, to be honest, Chris Paul is who we need. But I mean, you know, he's like 36 now, so that window's probably closed. But Chris Paul is the guy we needed. If Chris Paul was on the Celtics this year instead of Kemba, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he would have been as good as Phoenix, but I bet we would have been a lot better than we were. He's the kind of guy we need, the kind of guy who takes the ball out of Jaylen and Jason's hands and actually dictates the offense. And I just don't know who's left in the NBA that has that kind of star power that they can do that. I can't see it because Tatum is a young superstar. And as much as I kind of hate the way he plays sometimes, that slow, loafing, inefficient ISO Carmelo light style, he's gonna have the ball. He's gonna get that Luka treatment from Boston. And I don't know who you can get to sort of get that ball out of his hands and actually get him to run and to be part of a team. I just don't see it. I want Lonzo, but I can't see that either. Lonzo's the guy I'd love to see on the Celtics, but I can't see a path towards that either.
Mm. Well, let's look at the roster right now. We have Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Robert Williams. That could be your starting five if nothing changes next year. We also have Evan Fournier, Tristan Thompson, Peyton Pritchard, Moses Brown, Carson Edwards, Taco Fall, Luke Cornett, Romeo Langford, Aaron Nesmith, Semi Ojeleye, and Jabari Parker, which I'm not so sure Parker is going to be around for too long. He's just a lot of injuries piled up on him, unfortunately. That lineup right there, if nothing changes at him, and the coach does a great job and gets them playing defense and passing the ball and playing well as a team, and people are happy, how far can that team go next year?
Ooh, that's a lot of hypotheticals. If everything goes perfectly, I mean, they could make another run at the Eastern Conference Finals. Why not? I mean, is that team worse than the Hawks? But you know, that's a lot of things going right when last year with a similar group, a lot of things went wrong. And so I don't know. I wish I had the answer for what's wrong with this team and how to fix it. But you know, it just like what I was saying about Phoenix, how it feels like everybody fits, how everyone has like a role. And we've seen Celtics teams like this before when we had guys like Jay Crowder. Guys had roles. They knew what they were doing. Everyone was in their place. It was a clear pecking order. I just don't feel like that we have any of that, you know, and I don't want to get too crazy here and say that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can't play together. But I'm worried. I'm officially, they're still young. They still have plenty of time to figure it out. But I am officially at the stage now where I'm a little bit worried because they are a little bit redundant. You know, they're both wings that can play on both sides of the ball, that want the ball, that are, you know, that want a lot of shots, that don't particularly pass that well, that don't really play off the ball that well. And I hope that they can figure it out, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Celtics have one more bad year if Jaylen Brown ends up somewhere else. And I don't know who the guy that comes back. I doubt you're going to get equal value because I think Jaylen Brown's an incredible player, but I just haven't seen that ability for them to play off one another yet. And I don't know if the wing is the best combination of players anyways. I mean, look what Paul George and Kawhi are doing out for the Clippers. Like, it hasn't been easy for them, and it hasn't always been pretty either. I think I saw a crazy stat the other day that in the whole time that Paul George and Kawhi have been together, they've only had like 5 games where they both scored 30 points.
Yeah. I will say this, both Tatum and Brown are still so young. It's
So
incredible
young.
how young they are. So I do want to keep them for as long as we can to kind of see if they do gel. And who knows, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3 years down the line from now, that point guard that we need to just be a distributor and get them the ball could
Yamadar.
it
Come on.
could
Everyone's like going crazy about this second round draft pick. It's Yabusele all over again. I mean, I hope not. I hope he's going to be better than that. But like, I don't know. That's what we need. We need Jan Madar to come in here and be like the next Jason Kidd. That's what we need.
Well, let's talk about the draft real quick because I don't know a whole lot about a lot of the players coming in here. Obviously, I know about Cunningham from Oklahoma State. Doubt we're ever going to get him. That doesn't seem possible. But is there someone that you feel like Boston could get in the middle of the first round to bring in here? Is there anyone that stands out that you feel like could be a good fit?
Not anymore. Not since we traded away our draft pick because Brad Stevens hates rookies and just wants to bring Jeff Teague back and Tristan Thompson back and win now with this roster. I mean, no. I thought that was another reason I didn't love the Kemba trade, because I like Moses Brown as a young player, and it very well might be that Moses Brown ends up being more valuable down the road than the 16th pick. That's certainly possible, but I don't think Sam Presti makes that trade if he thinks that Moses Brown is more valuable than the 16th pick, because that's basically what that trade was. He has no intentions on playing Kemba. He had no intentions on playing Al Horford. So he basically swapped Moses Brown for the 16th pick. And he knows Moses Brown better than anybody. So if he thinks that that's a good value trade, then I believe him. And I wouldn't have traded a first round pick this year, because this year's draft is getting compared to 2003 as far as quality. The top 4, top 5 players, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, and the big man, why am I forgetting his name? Evan Mobley. These are all players that people think can be real game changers. And then even past then, there's a bunch of really interesting prospects. So it's both top heavy and it's considered to have depth as well. So I just think that like, this is not the year that you trade your first round pick away. But we did, and now we have no first round pick. Now, could we trade to get back into the draft? I guess that's possible. I don't really see it happening. So yeah, I don't think I get excited about the draft every year now, and it usually doesn't work out that well. But now I don't even get to get excited. So maybe that's good for me. Maybe that's good for my health, that I don't get all excited and then we draft Grant Williams and I have a stroke and lose half of my face. But yeah, I would have loved to stay in this draft and see if we could find a young point guard or something, but that ship has sailed. So what are we stuck with? Pritchard and Smart running the point. Horford is the second best passer on this team. I mean, it's from a playmaking standpoint, we're still in trouble for sure.
Well, a lot of very ominous points you're making, but they do make a lot of sense. So I will leave it at that. Who knows what can happen? We're still a little ways away from the draft. Boston could trade and get back in. We'll see what transpires. But as far as the next season's forecast goes, I mean, we did talk about it a little bit, how good Boston can be. But is there anything else that stands out to you as a Celtic fan that we can kind of keep our finger on the pulse, paying attention to as we lead into next year?
I just think there's a lot more moves to be made. Nobody expects Tristan Thompson, Semi Ojeleye, pretty much all the like Grant Williams and Tremont Waters and Carson Edwards, like Taco Fall. Like, I don't think anybody really expects or wants these guys back on the roster next year. But how do you get rid of them? No, I mean, nobody else wants them either. So that's, I think, the most interesting thing to look at going forward is how Brad Stevens is going to continue to try to shape this roster. I think most of us would love to just see like the back half of that roster just sent to China and bring in whoever else, like just give somebody else a chance, because these players are not going to be helping us. Now, I haven't given up on everybody. I do actually still have a lot of faith in Aaron Nesmith, even though he was like at times last year was a complete disaster and wasn't the player that I was hoping he was going to be out of the draft. You saw glimpses of what he could do towards the end of the year. And if you look back at his career at Vanderbilt, as a freshman, he was just like, all right. And then it was his sophomore season where he exploded. And so I'm hoping that he can sort of do the same process here in Boston, that his rookie year was kind of slow. And then we're going to see him kind of explode here in his second year. It might even be his third because, last year was a tough one. But I really do believe in Pritchard and Nesmith as nice role players for this team. It's just all the players that we drafted the year before that. I mean, I guess Romeo maybe could help us, but everybody else can just go to China and get off this team. Any day would be great. If I have to see Grant Williams play another basketball game, I swear to God that it just reminds me of how bad we screwed up that draft. And I would love to move off those players and maybe give some undrafted guys a chance. Again, this draft is supposed to have depth, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is an undrafted guy that ends up making a difference. I mean, you look at Moses Brown, the guy we just gave up our 16th pick for. He was an undrafted free agent last year. And the year before that, I think Kendrick Nunn was an undrafted free agent. So they're not common, but you can find guys. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see all these guys that we've seen already that we just know stink gone, and bring in some other guys that we haven't seen, and maybe give somebody else a chance, and just hope you find something.
Well, I like that word, hope, and that's what we're going to, I guess, end our first episode with is a hope for the next season here for the Celtics, that maybe we'll break through and win a championship. We win Green 18, right? That's what we've all been wanting for a long time. Well,
Can I say one more thing before we go? Because I know I've been incredibly negative, and your viewers are probably going to be like, "F this guy, don't bring him back. Why do I need to listen to this guy?" Let me say one nice thing. When you watch these playoffs and you watch the kind of players that really make a difference, Jason Tatum has everything that you would want and desire for a guy who you can lean on in the playoffs. So as much as I hate watching him walk the ball up the court, hold the ball, dribble the ball, ISO, when you look at the playoffs, so many of these possessions would come down to half court possessions, come down to a slowed down game of basketball. And a guy who can get you shots when the defense is tough, a guy who can make his free throws. And Jason Tatum is that guy. So like, if we can ever build a good team around him and get competitive, I see really bright things in Tatum's future as far as what he's going to be able to do in the playoffs. So that's my one nice thing that I'll say. So not everybody kills me.
And I will say this, just to show you how great my Celtics fandom is. I'm a North Carolina Tar Heels basketball fan. Duke is obviously their arch nemesis, and Tatum went to Duke. So initially I was like, no, get this guy off the team. I don't want him. I don't want to cheer for a Dookie. But you know what? It didn't take me long to realize he was only at Duke for one season. He's not really a Dookie. Now he's a Celtic. He's been a Celtic longer than a Dookie. So I'm okay with it. And you're right. You're 100% right. This guy could be the cornerstone of a championship team. And he's only 22 years old. So the future is bright, and hope. That's what we're going to hope for, here for this.
Hope he turns into KD Light. That's what you got to do.
Go.
And not Carmelo 2.0.
Well, this was a lot of fun for our first show. Just for anybody that's out there that's watching this, what we're hoping to do is bring you, 4 to 6 episodes like this a season, really focusing in on the Boston Celtics team, that organization, but also talking about the other important topics around the National Basketball Association. So again, thank you for your time today, Adam. It was a blast. For Adam Martin, I'm Ryan Jarrell. We'll see you next time.